Welcome to Two Girls, One Podium, the podcast where girl talk meets the finish line.
Join your hosts Millie and Jasmine, two besties with a passion for speed, sports and spilling all the tea. Whether we're breaking down the latest race drama, fangirling over our favourite drivers, or just having a laugh about life behind the scenes, we're bringing you the ultimate mix of motorsport and girl power.
So grab your iced coffee, buckle up and let's hit the track because here it's always full throttle and fabulous.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Two Girls, One Podium. Jazz, how's your week been?
Yeah, it's been all right. Been looking forward to this race and what a race it was. I feel like we're on a good run, so I'm excited to get into it. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was great because it was a 4-day weekend. It was a race weekend. Does life get much better than that? I'm not sure it does.
I mean, I ate a lot of Easter bunnies from Kinder. Hashtag not sponsored.
Did you? I'm really jealous. We didn't do Easter eggs this year because as delicious as chocolate is, it's really calorific. Saying that, we're definitely going to go to the shops today and buy a load of chocolate that's on offer.
Absolutely. Get it whilst it's discounted.
Right. Anyway, enough of chocolate. Let's jump straight in. So we'll again start at the start. The first corner. Let's talk about that. Obviously, Yuki and Pierre Gasly had a little bit of collision on the first corner.
Yeah, whose fault was it? Was anyone at fault?
Well, it's kind of a 50-50. I've watched it a couple times over and over, and yeah, I'm not. It wasn't great from either side, to be honest. But not entirely sure if much more could have been done to stop it.
No, and it got declared a racing incident, and I think that's fair. That corner is a tricky corner, and obviously there's other things that happened on that corner that we'll get into. But yeah, I feel like it's a squeezer. It always squeezes people. There's not a lot of room that you can really leave, especially if you're almost 3 cars into that corner. So I think it's kind of inevitable. I mean, could one of them given a little bit more room potentially, but you know, you're just going to run into those kind of incidents when people are trying to make their way up the pack in the start. I think it's really unfortunate for Gasly. Like, he's been doing really well so far this season. Obviously, last race he ended up around 5th, so it's a shame for him. And obviously Yuki seems to start finding a bit of comfortability in that car. So again, I was hoping to see something from him. If, you know, Max was able to pull something from that car, could he? But we'll never know. And yeah, I think it's fair to call it a racing incident at the end of it.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a racing incident. Like, stuff happens. Unfortunate. Agreed. Unfortunate for Gasly and Yuki. I'm personally more sad for Yuki because, again, I was really excited to see what potential he could pull from that car. Maybe next time.
Yeah, I think we've got to wait Yuki out again. When people win the car for the first time, I think, you know, there's some time to get comfortable with that and understand how it works. And I know he's going to Silverstone in the break between the races, right, to go and test some previous year's cars to help build up that level of confidence within how it operates, because they'll probably do a very similar setup. So who knows what he'll come back with after having a go at it in Silverstone.
Oh, that's exciting. I didn't know that. Maybe I'll... Is there tickets available?
I don't know what they're doing there. Maybe it might be some sort of event, but yeah, it's I'd imagine that they will have other stuff going on there as well. Silverstone always has events.
They always have events. They've also got a really cool hotel that's like recently opened called Escapehead, something like that. And it's got like some really cool like memorabilia and stuff in there. Anyway, moving on from Silverstone though, they obviously both brought out a safety car, which caused in the first lap everyone to bunch up once again from obviously, leaving the start line. But also there was a couple of strategic decisions that were made there. So I think Kik and Alpine decided to pit immediately, even though it had only been 1 lap. And they went straight onto hard tyres. Now, I'm assuming that's because they thought they could make the hard tyres last to the end of the race. That would be the only logical reason that they would put them in after 1 lap. It didn't work out that they could only do that they went all the way to the end, I don't think. But I like the intention. It was, nothing gained, nothing lost.
I'm not going to lie, though, when they came into the pit after one lap, I was like, what? I was so confused. I was like, what are we doing? And then, obviously, remembered it's a hot track, right? So hard tyres usually are kind of the way to go. But yeah, it didn't seem like anyone could get a one stop on the hards on this track. There was a lot of marble on the track. Obviously, it's slightly later in the year than they normally do Jeddah, so it's hotter, more humid. And I think that's really played a part in this. So their normal strategy of maybe getting a one stop didn't work out because of those reasons. But yeah, I was confused at first, and I was like, okay, I kind of see where you're going. Optimistic, and then yeah,
very optimistic. But again, I don't think they lost anything from trying.
No, for sure. I mean, Kit definitely not. They're right at the back. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's the most we've ever spoken about.
I mean, we've actually got something else to mention about them this race.
We have. I mean, what's going on?
Do you want to dive into that now?
Yeah, why not? We don't have to go in chronological order. So, manager versus, I've put mentee. Maybe he's not really a mentor, but Alonso and Bortoleto.
I know. I didn't realize that Alonso was Bortoletto's manager. Like that was news to me. But oh god, some awkward conversations would be happening there.
For sure. Yeah, I didn't know either. I learned from that race as well that was the case. But you could hear Alonso on the radio. Like, I don't even feel like it was annoyance. Like, it's almost like he felt like that was a close one. Like, he was like, oh, because he literally clipped the wall. He was squeezed into that. And obviously, they were going into a corner, like going towards a corner. So it could have been worse because, I don't know, maybe they weren't going as flat out and they were about to break. And, it could have probably been worse for Alonso. But yeah, I would not want to be Bortoleto after that. I don't know what kind of manager Alonso is. He's I find it hard to get a read on how he might be with Bortoleto.
I think he's probably quite a fatherly figure. That's the kind of vibes he gives to me. Yeah, I think he's from what I've seen, he's quite sweet, genuine, a soft individual. No,
I get slightly petty vibes from Alonso, but maybe that's because I've been aware of him for a lot longer.
Yeah.
Obviously, when him and Lewis were in the car together, and Lewis obviously nearly won in his rookie year, and then he won championships that essentially were stolen. Alonso probably feels were stolen from him. And then obviously the last couple of seasons as well, there was some relatively petty comments. I mean, how much do you trust the media and how they've interpreted what he said? But, there were some kind of petty comments from his side, and I don't know how serious it is. Again, I do find it hard to get a read on Alonso, like how much of it is him just joking around versus again media spinning it out of control. But I mean, I'm assuming that they'll sort it out, right? That's the whole point of being a manager, and it's a learning lesson, and if there's anything Alonso can do, it's teach, because that man is very, very intelligent. He knows all the rules. He knows how to highlight things in the right way to get the FIA to investigate, because he just knows this stuff, right? He studies. So yeah, I think they'll sort it, but I would not want that initial conversation if I was Bortoleto.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, he could have really dry humour, but I don't know, because I haven't obviously seen him in previous years. I've just seen him last year and this year. But I don't know, I feel like, he's probably well, I think when you're in that position of power, and you're in that position of, having someone relying on you and your experience, I think that also creates like a slightly different dynamic anyway. And I think it brings different kind of personality traits out of someone, knowing that someone is trusting in you to give them the direction that they need. So I completely agree. I could see where the pettiness would come in with Hamilton being like teammates, but obviously they're not teammates, and he's training this rookie up hopefully through the ranks. I mean, poor Bortoletto's been put in a kick, so probably not through the ranks, but you see where I'm going with that.
Kid. I do, and I agree with you. I think, there's nothing to indicate that Alonso would be anything but professional. So, I'm sure, as I said, they'd sort this out, and it would be a learning experience. And, Alonso will be able to guide him in the right direction of how to maybe handle those situations. Because obviously it's not even just the fact that they kind of came together and got squeezed against the wall. It's also the element of riding through. When you're in a team, you don't want to damage the car. That's money that needs to be spent elsewhere. So it's probably guiding him through that element of it as well, like the impact of it and how you want to try and minimise that, and how to review that and understand where is it that you went wrong, learn from it and come back again next time.
Well, from what I saw, where I think it went wrong is Bortoleto didn't even see Alonso. He was moving out of the way of another driver. I can't remember which one it was now, but he was moving out the way, clearly didn't check his mirror. I've done that before. And squeezed him. Whoopsies, man.
I can see you there. He probably had a heart attack, like, oh my god, where did you come from?
Literally.
But yeah, I think like, go on. You go on.
Nothing lost from it. I mean, yeah, it was a bit of a dink, but it wasn't, it didn't take Alonso out, like Yuki was taken out earlier in the race, so... Yeah,
and I do wonder as well, how much do the car's width come into play? Like, Jeddah is known for being quite a walled-in track. There's really not a lot of room anyway.
It's very narrow.
And these cars have obviously gotten bigger and bigger over the years, and I know that obviously Bortoleto is his first time in an F1 car. It's probably bigger than an F2 car anyway. And then you have to account for the fact that this track is smaller, and then you've got another car that's your size that maybe you're not super familiar with the dimensions of. Maybe judging that as to how close to the wall Alonso actually was and how much space he might have had also might come into play as well, right? It's when you first start driving a car, it's really hard to kind of know exactly the true size. I mean, maybe some people don't struggle with that. I know I do.
I do.
Especially if you're going from like a hatchback to a saloon or 4x4, whatever. It takes a minute to be like, okay, where does my front come in? Where's my back? Obviously, these guys are going at a lot quicker speed. They've got a lot of processing to do in a really short space of time. They barely even blink because you lose, meters every time you blink. So you're not going to want to do that. So I wonder if that comes into play with it. It is those tracks. Yeah. That track is scary. I find that track scary to watch.
Yeah, it looked scary. I mean, even I was watching practice, and oh my god, they were just. And I was like, oh, that's so close to the wall, that's so close to the wall.
There's two walls that they literally skim, and obviously...
I mean, Lando went into it, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I feel really bad for Lando on that. He left himself with a lot of work to do, but I really don't think it was his fault. He hit that curb, and it just knocked him sideways. There was really no way he could have controlled the spin out the back of it, and I think... it is what it is. I don't think he should take the blame for that. I think, the curb really... dinked him out. There's no coming back from it, and it's really unfortunate, but obviously he ended up doing a phenomenal drive anyway.
He was incredible yesterday. I'm so annoyed he didn't get driver of the day, but we'll come back to that.
Here we go. We ate driver of the day.
He did so well. I mean, to climb 6 positions on that track, wow. I mean, he should not be so hard on himself. I saw him after. He looked disappointed. He shouldn't be. That was an incredible drive from him. He had some incredible battles. I don't think he could have done much more. I really don't.
I really think as well, if he had a couple of more laps, obviously he didn't, but if he had a couple more laps, he would have closed down Leclerc and he would have 100%. Taken podium. And I think, it goes to show he's got the pace. He's got the drivability to be able to navigate the track. And especially because, again, at Jeddah, it is relatively hard to overtake, right? And to be able to climb 6 spaces is impressive. And I want to talk about the overtake on Lewis that he eventually got. Because for me...
What a battle.
A great battle, but it really highlighted experience versus pace. Yeah. And I don't, I'm not knocking Lando's experience. He's not a rookie, right? He's been around for a long time. He knows what he's doing. But I think it goes to show the difference in thinking, in how you're approaching your own strategy, not just driving the car. And again, I don't think he just drives the car, right? He's got to think about a lot of things. I'm sure he's always looking to improve. But I think, Lewis had an opportunity a couple of years back when he was battling Max, right? He got brake tested at this place. He had to find the right place to overtake. And there's that DRS line as you're coming towards the pit straight. And if you don't hit it at the right point, the other person just gets DRS and can overtake you. And that's what we saw for a couple of laps, right? Every time Lando kept he tried to do the overtake too early. Yeah. And then what we saw was Lewis like, well, I know there's a DRS line coming up, so I'm just going to wait you out and then I'll take my place back. And that happened a couple of times. And then obviously Lando's team came on the radio and was like, basically saying, don't go too early, like wait it out, do it at the right, really think about when you want to take this overtake. And then eventually it clicked for him and he was like, right, I know this DRS line's coming, I'm going to bide my time. And then he did it and it was really clean, it was really nice. But I do think it goes to show that, you know, you're going up against someone who's got loads of experience, and I hope Lando takes that as okay, how can I start thinking more like that? And again, I don't think he's not thinking like that in certain areas, but it's thinking about every single move 3 moves ahead. That's where I want him to get to.
Yeah, my opinion, and I'm not saying it's right, it's just what I was thinking about it, is I thought you could see the desperation from Lando. He was so desperate to get back to that podium. He just was like, I'm just going to keep going, I'm just going to keep going, I'm just going to keep going. But he wasn't, you're right, he wasn't logically thinking about it. He just didn't want to lose time. Yeah. So he was trying his very best to just try and get ahead of Lewis so that he could make up that time. But you're right, because of the DRS zones, he wasn't thinking about that. He was just thinking, I've got to get past, I've got to get past, I've got to get past.
Yeah.
And that's where the mistake lies, because he actually lost more time by doing that.
Yeah, and I think it's almost, you've got to think about it like a game of chess, right? And I don't know how many people know how to play chess, but obviously you're always thinking more moves ahead than the move that you're currently on, because you're trying to anticipate that person's move. And I think you see it if you look at some of the drivers on the grid that have this experience already. Lewis has this experience. Alonso has this experience. He is the ultimate chess player, move player, I feel like. And then obviously Max is very observant, very aware of his surroundings, almost driving other people's cars. If you start to study these people and you think of it in that chess match way, I think if he can start thinking like that, that's when he'll be able to become a champion a lot easier. I'm not saying that playing the chess game is easy, but once you know what to look for, I feel like he can then start to see, okay, this is my opportunity here, or I could have an opportunity here, and so on and so forth, rather than relying so heavily on the team to tell him when that is.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, actually, because I had chess written in my notes, but it wasn't about Lando. It was about Max. Because if we rewind back to that first corner...
Oh, yeah, here we go. Let's get into it, guys.
Full throttled into it. Actually, it wasn't the first corner, it was the second, wasn't it? He full throttled into it to try and take the position back from Oscar.
Yep.
But what was he doing? He ran himself off the track, in my opinion, on purpose. Max, we see you.
Yep.
And then tried to claim that he was squeezed. That's a chess. That's playing chess.
Yeah, and it didn't work. The FIA said checkmate. And do you know why it didn't work? Because that move has been tried by him before. And also on the flip side, again, him and Lewis, obviously, Lewis had to give the space back, I believe, a couple of years ago. Could be wrong on that, fact check me. But essentially, they put in a rule that, you know, you can't just run off the track and say, well, I didn't have any space. The guy had the inside corner. Piastri was alongside you. He had the inside corner, the same thing that Max has complained about before, when it's him on the inside, and he's had that situation, right? So, again, I think he tried to play a game. Didn't work out for him. I mean, do you really lose too much by doing that? It's a risk. You know what it could result in. I do find it interesting, though, that in a way, giving him a 5-second penalty didn't really do too much because he had clean air, right? And I think that could have ruined Piastri's race because he wasn't forced to give the place back. Yeah. Ultimately, in the end, it worked out and it was fine. But yeah, I think it was an interesting move from Max that just really didn't work out. But do we expect anything less? It wasn't a surprise. I knew something was going to happen in that corner because Piastri got a really, really good start, even though he wasn't in pole position. And, you know, ultimately Max is going to try whatever he wants to try to stop Piastri from getting that lead. it kind of worked out initially, and then obviously, he got that penalty that he had to serve. And luckily, Piastri found a way to get that back with the undercut, which great strategy call from McLaren with that. The undercut really works at this track, and it was kind of plain sailing from there on out.
Yeah, I don't know if you watch on Sky Sports, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, same. So at the beginning, Crofty and who's the other presenter?
Why is his name?
Crofty's so easy to remember because he says random weird things all the time.
I know, I can't...
he's toast. That was my favourite one this week. Something like that.
I don't know why.
It was like, the jam's not sticking to the wheels. It's like, what? Anyway, so the two presenters of Sky Sports, they were discussing this at the beginning of the race before the lights out and away we go. They were saying that it might actually be better to be in second position because of the way that it faces into the first corner, because it does give you a slight advantage because you're on the inside line already, which is just something really interesting to think about. I wonder whether, obviously you're always going to be competing for pole because, again, you want to start there, but it is interesting to think, maybe some of the races you don't want pole, maybe some you do want second.
For sure. There is definitely tracks where it benefits you more to be in second. And, some of it's to do with angle, but the other part is how clean or dirty the track is in those sections. I think in this case you do want to be second. I don't think we'll see people aiming for second, though. As you said, you do want that pole position. But
there's only 1/10 of a second in it between Max and Oscar anyway, wasn't there?
Which, by the way, what the hell is going on? Because how has Max found something again in this car? It's so inconsistent that I just never know what to predict with Max.
So, maybe you know a bit more than this because, again, I'm relatively new, but obviously they make changes to the car, but they can't be making that much of a change between the races, right? Because there's restrictions in place. So I don't understand how one race it performs really well and the next it doesn't. Is that driver, is that car, is that the conditions of the track? I don't get it.
Yeah, so they can only take upgrades a certain number of times throughout the year, so they have to be strategic when those upgrades are. And I don't think Red Bull brought any upgrades this weekend. It wasn't really talked about. So I think it's a mixture of driver, track and setup. And I think maybe the hotter tracks benefit the Red Bull a little bit more. I know that less fuel benefits the drivers, the Red Bulls a lot more as well. That car seems to come in for that. I also think it's just Max's ability to qualify well. He can qualify well. But still surprised to see him second when he weren't even on the podium last week. It's really bizarre how it's either in 6th or 7th or it's on the podium, and there's no consistency there. And again, we've got nothing to really compare that to because Yuki, obviously the driver switched and then Yuki crashed out this race, so we couldn't see where he was able to get it. But I do think we would have seen him up in around 5th, 6th. I do think we would have seen that.
Optimistic. I do think that's why this sport is
Girl, rein in that attitude. I saw that face. You're so rude to me. I'm going to cry one of these days.
I think that is why the sport is just so entertaining, though, because it is so different from one moment to the next. And, everything you thought you knew can change like that because something happens and it all changes and you think, oh, maybe I was wrong. And I don't like to admit I'm wrong often.
We can tell.
This sport really makes me question, a lot of the, set in stone decisions I think I make in my mind about people, drivers, cars. Questioning it every single race. I'm like, oh, interesting. Apart from kick, I don't question that.
No, we know where they're going to end up, unfortunately. But I agree. I think, and there's so many factors and variables that we don't know about because we're just observers, right? We're not in the garages. We're not back in the factory. We're not there when they're having their briefings and all of those things. And we're not the drivers. And I think driver mentality also comes into play, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be days like races where they're really switched on and really on it, and then there's going to be days where they have bad days that you just can't shake yourself out of. And you know, I think that's what makes it exciting, is that you don't have all the information, so you're really just going on vibes. Like, you have some facts and you have some information, and like you've got previous races that you can go on, right, where you can be like, okay, hards are going to work probably better here, or you know, this is going to be they're going to try and do it one stop because it's worked in the past. But you don't know if that's actually going to work out, because the calendar changes, right, in terms of when they're at these places at the moment. And this year it seems like they've really tried to make it more economical and better for the environment in terms of the direction in which they are going, rather than flying back and forth. And obviously that means that some of the hotter races are even hotter because they're later in the calendar, and I think all of that comes into play. So you're essentially guesstimating, like you're almost making an educated guess based on previous stuff, but it's not enough, and it changes. And I think that's why when I do some crazy predictions, this is why, because who bloody knows? Like, we've seen it in the past, right? There was the season where the Aston Martin was up there. We had blimmin' Alonso on the podium. Like,
wow.
And that only happened for a couple of races, and then that car dropped off. Like, so you just never know what's going to happen. So when I say that someone like Ocon could be on the podium, it can bloody happen, girl. Rein your neck in.
Yeah, look, I get it. Like, I mean, Gasly proved that to us last week. I mean, I know he wasn't podium, but he wasn't far off. And my God, I would never have predicted an Alpine being that high. So I get it. I like winding you up.
I know you do. I know you do, and it's not funny though, because I don't take it seriously. But I do. What I do want to talk about in taking it seriously, the post-race interview. I don't know if you caught it.
I did.
So with Max got interviewed, and I think the guy that was interviewing him has strong opinions of Max and Red Bull anyway, and I'm pretty sure he's kind of... was it David Coulthard who was doing the interview? But if it was him, he's got some strong opinions on that team and has said some stuff in the past that I think they don't really like talking to him when he's doing the interviews anyway. But obviously he started with the question of that corner incident with Piastri and whether he should have given the space back, what his thoughts were about receiving the penalty. And Max was not having any of it. Didn't entertain the question at all. He just said, first I want to say thank you to the fans. Really great having you here, coming out here. It was really great to see you. See you at the next one. Walked off. That was all he said. He didn't answer any more questions, didn't say bye. And Leclerc, you could tell, was not prepared because he was casually sitting on his little box waiting. He was like scrambling to get off of the little stool thing and run and get his mic. And I don't think it was necessarily Max trying to be petty. I mean, I don't know how much the dynamic of who was interviewing him comes into play. I think it leans more into the fact that he doesn't want to probably have to deal with the FIA if he says the wrong thing. He probably doesn't agree with the penalty, because when do Red Bull and him ever agree with the penalties? And I think he was just, he almost did the PR thing that we've seen other drivers do in the past, where, he says thank you to the people that he probably only really cares about at that point in time, and left it at that. So yeah, I thought it was just really funny to, like, how nobody was prepared for him to not even answer any more questions.
I vibe with that, though, because, like, one, the FIA this year are difficult.
Every year, girl, since that season.
I know, but, like, obviously, like, last year was my first kind of year of being into it, so, like, I knew of the FIA, but I wasn't entirely sure about, like, how much influence they had. This year, like, I mean, we'll go back to Lando's pit, but they dug deep into that, into something that they really shouldn't have even been thinking about. And it's just, nitpicky comes back into it. We said it last week, I'll say it again. Why are they being so nitpicky? They are making... This is already a very high-intense sport, right? They are literally putting their lives on the line, and you're questioning them about coming out of the line by this much? I mean, maybe it is a health and safety thing, I don't know, but swearing has nothing to do with safety. So, with the swearing, with the penalising them on what they say in the interviews, they are only human, right? I mean, there'd be much worse words coming out of my mouth, I tell you.
So you missed Watchgate, Jewelrygate, underwear gate, whatever you want to call it.
Jewelry gate? What?
So back when the season was really intense between Max and Lewis, I think this was 2021. This is the year that the FIA had to do, like, basically had to fire Massey and get someone new in, because it's the whole almost cheating scandal in a way. And what was happening with that year was the drivers, there was a little things going on with the drivers here and there, and around wearing fireproof underwear. They're supposed to wear fireproof underwear. Can't imagine that's the most comfortable, so I think a lot of the drivers opt out. I mean, who's checking, right? If you're getting in their pants, that's just
George Russell's checking.
Well, no, because I think even he, like, there's certain things that even he's like, that's too far, even though he is obviously like a safety officer. But then there was Jewelry Gate, and a lot of the FIA that year felt heavily targeted towards Lewis. A lot of the decisions, right? And there was a jewelry ban. Like, they're not allowed to wear jewelry when they're in the car, right? And obviously Lewis is decked out in jewelry. He's got his nose pierced, he's got ears pierced.
He can't even wear, like, the nose piercing or the ear piercing?
No, and
like, I get, like, necklaces and stuff. Like, that makes sense.
Well, you say this. So, obviously, he's had his nose pierced for years.
Mm-hmm.
The jewelry thing started to get out of hand. He had to get a doctor's note. A doctor's note to say that he couldn't take it out, right? And there are certain piercings that you can't take out, or if you've had certain things done, you can't take them out after a certain period of time, or just also taking your jewelry out.
This is like being in school, lol.
Right. So, yes, you say this. So, anyway, he was targeted for that. But the reason why it was so weird, and a lot of the other drivers spoke out about it as well, and Lewis also said the same, is so they're allowed to wear their wedding rings, and they're allowed to wear religious jewellery, but I'm not allowed to wear my jewellery. And obviously it's like his self-expression, and they tried to argue that, well, if like he gets into a crash and they need to take his helmet off, it could get caught in the helmet, and I think that's the least of his problems if he's in an accident where he needs to be looked after.
A nose ring.
Way. A nose stud, yeah. And bear in mind, this man has worn this forever and taken his helmet off without a problem all this time, and same with earrings or whatever. Anyway, so he started to wear, like, there were some races where he didn't wear the jewellery, right? He took it off, and then it started to come back again, and I think he probably swallowed the fines, but he was getting in trouble for that kind of thing all the time. Got to the point where it was so bad that he showed up to one interview pre-race with 3 watches on and decked out in chains, like loads of stuff, just to be like, F the FIA, like, because it got that petty. And yeah, it was funny, but also it was very targeted towards him, and a lot of the drivers did comment on that. And then obviously you had the situation where in the last race where it was literally down to the wire for the championship between Max and Lewis, and they'd been fighting all year. We had the Silverstone 51G crash. We had Max Verstappen driving over the top of Lewis's head and reversing on it. You know, we had a full blown championship battle that year, and it comes down to the last race, and then you have a safety car. I don't know how much do you know about this? Some people probably listening know about this, and I'm teaching you to suck eggs a bit, but essentially the last race, there was a safety car, because I think it was Latifi who crashed. Surprise, surprise, not really. And there was a couple of laps to go, and essentially, I think it was a red flag actually, and then they came back out. So Max was able to change his tyres. Lewis didn't pit, couldn't change his tyres, right, because there was only a couple of laps there. But what happened is they allowed only 4 cars to unlap themselves instead of the whole grid, which is against their own rules to do. And what it meant is that Max was right behind Lewis at this restart, and Max won the title that way because Massey essentially handed it to him. That's kind of the rhetoric that's been said. And I have to agree, when I was watching that, I literally felt physically sick, because I was like, Lewis is going to get his 8th. And it felt like that whole year, and I could be a little bit biased here because I'm a Lewis fan, but it did feel like that whole year it was very targeted to try and hold him back from getting that 8th, because obviously it would break the tie with Schumacher. Now, whether you believe in those kind of conspiracies or not, it was still really unjust, and all, you know, you heard a lot of driver radios after they only unlapped 4. They were like, what the actual F? You know, essentially they were like, that's really unfair. Why are they only unlapping 4 cars? And essentially that's how Max won his first championship, under a scandal, and then he won his second championship under the cheating scandal because of the budget. And then obviously third championship, obviously the car was great or whatever, but he's always had some kind of scandal around his wins, and not directly his fault either.
Yeah,
it's like team and people's making decisions. But yeah, now we're seeing it happen to Max. And then I think, you know, we might start to see it shift to Lando, but it definitely feels like they kind of target certain people, because obviously Max has been penalised for swearing in interviews. The drivers have been questioning, you know, where the hell is this money going? We've got the Drivers Association that Carlos is now kind of leading, directing, which is where, you know, they are basically questioning the FIA, the president, and all the things he's doing. I think George is involved with that. All the drivers are involved, but like there's people leading that kind of conversation. So yeah, I think the FIA, they really annoy me. They're not consistent. They're really, really inconsistent. I know that they get different people doing things during different races, but then they pick up on certain things and they don't make the right decision on others. And I think people have really lost their trust in the FIA since 2021. It's like, I don't think it was great, but it's gone downhill since 2021 more so, because they just prove that they make no sense. Anyway, that's backstory on kind of 2021.
That was story time with Jazz, everybody. If you'd like story time with Jazz next week, let us know. Drop us a DM. I really enjoyed story time. And now I know more about the FIA in the background. So thank you.
And now you hate them even more, right?
Yeah, I mean, I disliked them before. Now it's gone to a strong hate. But I do think it's good that the drivers have started their own association to kind of fight back, because I think the fans don't agree, and neither do the drivers. So what is the FIA
Why
doing?
are you fining people, and where the hell is that money going? Because it's weird. It's a weird concept. And we're talking, like, at one point, there was a fine on the table for $1 million. I think it was $1 million for Lewis for walking across the track in the middle of a race. At one point. Like, these fines are crazy numbers. I think, how much did Max get fined? It's got to have been around 35k, 40k. Like, we're talking ridiculous money. And I know these drivers get paid a lot, but not all the drivers get paid the same amount, right?
No, so they don't.
It's like, are you doing it based on a percentage? Are you just charging whatever the hell you feel like because you want a holiday? Like, what are you spending this money on? And I think that's why we see a lot of tension between the president when he tries to greet the drivers. They're not all that interested.
Yes. Sometimes, is he the one also who does the podium thing? Because sometimes you think, oh,
sometimes he does. Yeah, I think, well, he's always up there shaking their hands, but he's always down on the track as well, shaking their hands. There's a few drivers who try not to interact with him at all. Or it appears that way. Like, they still are professional, right? It's not like they
obviously it's a job, but it's not, you know.
Yeah, but he always wants to hug the drivers, and there's some drivers who are like, no,
absolutely,
you get a tap on the arm and I'm off. Like, I'm not interested in being your pal. So yeah, the FIA are controversial, and I really need them to get their lives together, because it feels so picky. I just don't like, it's not always for safety, because how can you say it's always for safety? Like, when they're bringing out freaking vehicles onto the track and still keeping the cars out, when we've literally seen people die by going into the back of one. You know, I don't understand how you can say, well, I'm doing all of these other things for safety, but you're willing to put a massive vehicle on track whilst they're still going around, even under a safety car. Safety cars going off the track to avoid it. They're not going to want to follow. Like, that's the consistency that I don't agree with. Like, I get that certain penalties we might not necessarily agree with and things like that, but when it comes to the safety, you can't pick and choose.
Yeah, agreed. If you guys also hate the FIA, let us know.
Leave a comment. Emoji. If we're on YouTube, leave an emoji on what we have. I want
but anyway, moving on from the FIA.
You didn't answer my question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear it. What did you say? I was laughing.
I said if they leave a comment because they hate the FIA, what emoji should they use? And you just move on.
Leave a fire emoji. Because we're gonna light this beep, so you don't have to block it up.
She hates me, everybody.
I don't.
You've got selective hearing, girl.
I do have selective hearing. In fairness, I was laughing quite loud. My laughs are loud.
Yeah. Did you like my little he meme that I put against it? For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, for the three of you that listen, on YouTube, I put loads of memes against us and I basically roast us. So if you want some more entertaining content,
roast us. It's mostly her roasting me.
But you roast me in this podcast, so I'm allowed.
I roast you in real life, and then you roast me with the memes.
Yeah, because I'm shy. No, I'm not. Yeah.
Anyway, can we talk about Williams now?
Oh God, you're such a fangirl. They are literally going to get a restraining order on you. Go for it.
No.
Tell us about Williams.
Did you see where they finished?
Points, baby. Points.
Yeah, I think they must be back in the top 5 again now. I think they must have overtaken Haas again. So I think they're back up there, and I'm planning for them to finish top 5 this year. Now, if you didn't hear me last week, my Mystic Meg prediction is they are going to be a top 5 team. So... just saying, I got this in the bag.
I love your confidence. But I will give it to you. They did really well, and Haas anywhere to be seen this week, which is interesting because they kept like coming in. Obviously, I know they weren't necessarily getting high, but we saw some great drives from Behrman. Don't really feel like there's much to talk about for Behrman this week.
I know, we've been hyping him up as well. He is great, don't get me wrong, but
I think it's just the track, to be honest.
Week. Yeah,
I think the track isn't suited to the Haas's anyway. But yeah, really impressed to see Sainz and Albon, and especially Sainz. Like, you know, he's had a bit of trouble, he's had a bit of bad luck, and here he is in 8th. So, you know, you've got to be happy with that. Let's talk about the little teamwork that was going on.
Oh, the teamwork! Oh my God, right. Now, I know Hadjar's your rookie, and look, I don't dislike Hadjar, I think he's a cool guy, right?
Good, because he'd have a problem.
Yeah, so the next YouTube fight, everyone, is me versus Jazz.
Yeah, that was me swinging my fist at Millie, by the way. I was winding it up, and then I went for it, because not everyone's going to see that, but I was making a very weird noise into the mic.
Yeah, we forget this is a podcast, and, like, the least
Not
amount of people actually watch us. So, Hadjar was chasing down my boys, my Williams, and their teamwork was absolutely incredible. So we had Sainz at the front. Oh, here we go with the hand gestures again. Sainz at the front.
DJ Millie on the deck.
Albon behind, and Albon was using Sainz, as in he was using him with the DRS, because Hadjar kept opening his DRS to try and overtake Albon, and then Albon would be like, not on my watch, and then open his DRS and use the speed from Sainz. They were working very well together, honestly, my boys.
It was really nice to see, and like I don't really expect anything less from those two. I feel like they are team players. I don't think you know, we've always seen them trying to help each other out, or help their teammates out in other cars that they've driven in. So yeah, it was really great to see them working together. Obviously, for me, like, I love Hadjar, and I think he had a really great strategy this race. So to see him get points, absolutely so happy for him. But it's a really hard one for me because I wanted all three of them to do really well. So you know, ultimately, it still worked out great.
Yeah,
I don't think it would have made too much difference what order they came in, because I'm just happy that they're all up in the points. To be honest, I think it was a really great thing to watch this week.
I agree. I mean, I do love that Williams came a little bit higher, obviously. I need them to be the top 5.
Have you got shares in their company or something? What's going on?
I wish. I just want them to invite me there. God, stop being so selfish, guys.
Yeah, Williams, come on, girl. What are you doing?
Do you not know our podcast exists?
Do you know who I am? And then there's Williams. Williams is sat there going, who is she? Who is she?
Who is she? Anyway, so really proud of them this week. Albon also had a little sassy radio moment, which
we love an Albon sass. We're going to have to put a compilation together of all his radio messages, because they are so good.
He's a sassy queen this year. I'm kind of here for it. I'm here for it. So yes, thank you for letting me talk about Williams for a brief 3 minutes. I'll keep it brief on them this week. Whilst we again move on to Kimi Antonelli. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Are we going to have to start calling him Mr. Consistent too?
I know. The Mercedes have stepped it up big time.
They have. I still don't think it's a championship winning car, because
interesting,
always
you say
the
that.
bridesmaid, never the bride situation.
Harsh. oof, that would cut deep if they understood it.
I mean, the thing is, I know we've only had a couple of races, and maybe they'll bring some upgrades, and we'll see them battling for first. But there's always just been something not quite getting them to it.
I think you're underestimating them. I really do. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe not championship, as in like.
Sorry, but Antonelli has not got higher than 6th, right? I don't think he's.
Antonelli's the only rookie that actually.
Rookie, yes, but in terms of him versus George is on the podium. Antonelli is not quite there yet, so you need 2 of them to be winning a championship construction. But the consistency might win them over, because obviously we've seen that before, where that consistency can pay off. But I don't see them taking McLaren this year.
Harsh critic. I don't see them taking McLaren this year. I agree. But fierce competitors for sure. And, you know, Antonelli is, I think if he is willing to get his elbows out, which he didn't this race, we saw a very smooth, easy overtake from Lando. I think he could have put up a little bit more of a fight. I know you don't agree as much. You think that the race isn't with McLaren, but...
Well, it's not that I don't think the race is with McLaren. I wonder if Mercedes feel like the race isn't with McLaren, because they know the cars and the timings and all of that better, and, you know, they all have their own strategies. You see it all the time. Like, you're not going to have someone like Alonso battling it out with McLaren, because that's not their race. Like, they want to come a certain position, but they know the limits of that car. And I'm not saying that Mercedes can't get to first. It's just so far what we've seen, it feels like even holding on to a P2, a P3, George is giving it everything he's got, right? Even with a broken car that has, you know, an update happening, or whatever it was that he said happened in the end. Microsoft was updating. You know, we're not seeing Antonelli up there with him, and I think if the car was that great, I think Antonelli would come higher, because I think he has that capability. He's a phenomenal driver. I really like the way he drives, and I think he's got a lot of potential. But I do feel like there's something still slightly missing, because I do think he could eke out more positions if the car was there.
I don't know if I agree with you personally, only because like the drivers that we have up there this week in particular, Max in the Red Bull, Lando, Oscar, I mean, that's not obviously the order that they finished in, but these are the drivers consistently coming high. George in his Mercedes, and now the Ferraris are starting to push into that as well. And if you think about it, they have all got mass amounts of experience on these tracks and in these cars, right? So I think for him to even be coming 6th, considering his experience, is absolutely phenomenal. And I do think the car has a lot of bite in it, maybe not as much as the McLaren, but it sure is giving Red Bull a run for its money, for sure.
But I don't understand how we can compare to Red Bull when Red Bull have been so inconsistent. And I think that there is some flukes here, right? I think McLaren are way ahead. I know it doesn't look like that at the moment because they've had some issues, but like you've got to look at the rest of the pack. Like Leclerc is finding something Lewis is not finding. Lewis is having trouble with grip. He's having trouble with driving style. It's a completely different car, different brake setup, loads of different things. Then you've got George and Antonelli, the same thing. George has had experience in this car. Now he's been in that seat for a while. Antonelli hasn't. So you're seeing the split. So I think in a way it is kind of hard to tell. But I also do think that George has the ability to win. You know, we've seen that. I don't think that if he had a car that was competitive for first, we would be seeing more battles with McLaren. Okay. And we're not.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's still quite early to tell, so I could be eating my words later down the line. But at this point in time, until we start seeing upgrades, I do think that there's something still quite missing from that Mercedes. But they are on the running. Yeah. I just don't know what upgrades they're going to bring. But I agree with you. I think Antonelli is such a great driver, and I want to see him on the podium this year. That is
I would love to see that. Yeah, that would.
Look at us resolving our debate. Oh,
I know. Friends at last.
Until she roasts me for something else later.
Yeah, obviously.
And then I'm just going to roast you with memes, so it's fine.
Yeah,
Our love language is bullying, guys. Sorry.
Obviously, we're mean girls. Only to each other, though. And that's because it's mean love. We're not mean to other people.
Yeah, and we both bring very valid points, and we both look at it very differently. We support different people as well, so, you know, we're going to have...
Yeah, there's definitely going to be conflicts there, because I was obviously having the best time with the Hamilton-Lando battle, and you not so much after.
No, but I wasn't expecting Hamilton to be up. I mean, obviously I put him down as quite high for this track, but, you know, I do know that the car is going to take him...
Isn't right for him yet.
Yeah, so I think, you know, all things considered, I wasn't mad that Norris overtook him. I thought the whole experience thing was really interesting, so I feel like that was highlighted, but 100%. I think Hamilton's time is coming. Like, he won the sprint race, so there's something there. He can find something, it's just got to come. But yeah, again, I just want to touch on the fact that Norris, for me, like, definitely did great this race. I really wanted him to climb, and I was happy that he managed to get where he did, even though I would have liked to see him on the podium.
Yeah, I agree. I think his pit entrance was bad, and obviously the FIA looked into that, and then they also looked into his pit exit. But I think other than that, he drove a really good race, and he shouldn't be as harsh on himself as he is. He's his own worst critic. You can see it in his face. He was disappointed. But I think he did everything he could to rectify his mistake from the day before, which again was going to be a difficult one to even stop after he had hit that curve.
Yeah, there's nothing you could do. Nothing.
No. And for me, he would have been my driver of the day, going to driver of the... And I did vote for him for driver of the day. Jazz, did you vote this week?
No.
There's definitely a conspiracy going on, though, because Max got driver of the day, right?
What the hell? What is going on?
Who voted for him?
Why? Is it because that car, he found something in that car that they weren't expecting, but, like, it's not that impressive?
It's not.
To me.
It's not impressive.
There was other stuff that was going on. I mean, my driver of the day wasn't Lando, but, you know...
Who was your driver of the day?
I put Leclerc.
Okay,
because I thought, you know, I don't feel like that Ferrari's quite where it needs to be, but the fact that he's still finding podiums...
Mm-hmm. And he fought off Lando.
Yes. A couple more laps Lando would have got him, but I think, you know, to get podium in that, I thought he deserved driver of the day. Lando's a very close second for me, though.
I picked Lando because he went up six spots on a very narrow track, and he really did redeem himself from the day before, in my opinion. But I'm very mad about this Max thing. I'm sure there's a conspiracy theory going on. I'm sure there's a forum where people were saying who they're voting for, because God Almighty, how did that man get driver of the day? I'm not saying he drove a bad race, but he dropped a position. And actually, he did drive a bad race because he tried to mug Oscar off. So
yeah, it felt a little bit like cheating. I know, again, that's a harsh word that
and
we probably don't like to throw
reward
around.
him with driver of the day.
It's bizarre.
Are you?
Like, I don't understand driver of the day, and I kind of just want to ignore it because it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
Every week from the beginning of this season, not a single one has made sense.
It's making me mad, real mad.
And I know it's based on public opinion, but based on what is happening in the race, I just don't get it. We've not voted for the right person. I say we don't vote, but they've not voted for the right person, or even close
like
to the
you,
person. I'm letting everyone down. It's my fault.
Specifically, just you. If you had voted,
it would have changed everything. I'm so powerful.
Okay, so before we do our predictions for next week, it is Easter, so I did just want to do a little what Easter egg do you think the top 3 are?
Prepare for her to roast me, everybody, by the way.
So, Oscar, what Easter egg do you think Oscar is?
That boy is a Terry's chocolate orange in his papaya car for me.
Oh, that's a cute one.
I think, you know, Terry's chocolate orange, absolutely delicious, as in flavour-wise, and his driving, for me, is really good at the moment. And with a Terry's chocolate orange, you've got to whack it to break it. And I feel like that showcases him in a great way of, like, he's got that hard exterior. He's a hard nut to crack. Like, he's very cool and collected. But then when you get inside, you know, he's got thoughts, he's got flavour, he's got stuff going on. And
I love that.
You know, I think he's a real Terry's chocolate orange for me. What have you put him as?
I've put him as a mini egg. A mini egg Easter egg. Because he's sweet and cute and everyone loves him. But there's more to him. There's lots of the little eggs. There's lots going on there, you know. But still, everyone loves him and that's why he's a mini egg.
And they've got the little mini eggs have got a
hard
exterior,
shell,
soft in the middle.
Inside. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, we thought along the same lines.
We did. Okay, so Max. Interesting. What egg have you put Max as?
Sorry guys, he's a Thornton's. He's Thornton's. I don't like that chocolate.
Thornton. Do Thornton's do Easter eggs?
Yeah, they do. It's that kind of chocolate. It's that fancy chocolate. And I'm not saying that Max is fancy, but it's that kind of chocolate you either like it or you don't.
And it's expensive and it doesn't even taste that good. I'd rather just have a Cadbury's.
Exactly. And I'm like, you know, I'm not saying I hate Max, don't know the guy personally, but the Max that I see on track sometimes really, really irks me. But I love him off track. He's hilarious. I think he's really funny, very smart guy, really good driver. So for me, he's a Thornton's. Yeah.
I have put him as an Aero Mint, and I'll tell you for why. He's an Aero Mint because if I got an Aero Mint, I'd be like, oh. And then I actually eat it and I'm like, actually, that's...
An Aero Mint slaps, so you take that back, bitch.
But like, no, when I eat it, I'm like, yeah, actually, quite like that. But I have to be in the mood for it. I really have to be in the mood for an Aero Mint.
I love an Aero Mint.
And I feel like...
any day.
I feel like Max, for me, is I've got to be in the mood. Because otherwise it's just going to upset me. And I'm going to be like...
see that.
So that's why he's an Aero Mint for me.
I love that explanation. It's actually really good.
And again, like, obviously Aero Mint has the bubbles going on. But you don't see that until you go under the surface. So,
and you're not media. If you're not media...
You ain't getting the bubbles. No bubbles for you.
And I love that he's got that boundary. I think, you know, he hasn't ever gone back on that. He's never tried to cater. And, you know, you do either love it or you hate it. If I could have put a Marmite egg, I would have, but we don't have one. And thank God, because that's probably very nice.
And lastly, Leclerc. What have you put him as?
My baby boy is a Ferrero Rocher egg.
Interesting!
A Ferrero Rocher has got so much going on with it. Texture, taste. It's a nice chocolate. It's not too far from Kinder, my favourite. And, you know, who turns down Ferrero Rocher?
Yeah,
I ain't ever met someone who has. And I feel like everyone, you always say everyone's a Ferrari fan. I feel like everyone's a Leclerc fan. Like, there's just something about him that makes you want him to succeed. You know, Max really gets on well with him as well. A lot of the drivers get on with him. He gets on really well with Lewis. You know, they play chess together. And I just feel like he's that kind of guy that everyone likes. There's just something about him. And, you know... For me, I always love the interview that he did where he got asked what his recurring nightmare is, and he says box. Because there was one season where Ferrari, it was Monaco, and he was about to go past the pit entrance, and they told him to box, so he had to swerve and go into the pit because it was a really last minute, and then it was a bad call. And ever since then, it's been a running meme of box is his nightmare. He literally said it himself. And I just think he's funny without trying to be funny. And yeah, he's great. So he's a Ferrero Rocher for me. That was a really long-winded way of saying that.
I love that. For me, he's a Galaxy Ripple. And that is because melts in the mouth, you know.
Yeah, it does. I love it.
It's delicate chocolate. It's soft. It's smooth. Yeah, and that's what Leclerc is. And I'm not a Ferrari fan, obviously, but I got nothing against Leclerc. I think he'd be a good Easter egg, you know.
I agree, and he makes his own ice cream, so you know it goes very well with Easter egg. Yeah, it's called Lec.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'd love to try the ice cream, actually.
Yeah, where do we get that from? Maybe we should have it on next week. Maybe. Oh my God, we could... Oh, is that...
I'm going to France. I'm going to France in June. I'm going to try and find it.
Oh my God, because we could do a review on it, but it'd be really hard to get the ice cream back.
Yeah, it'll melt.
I wonder if we can import it. Anyway.
Maybe.
If you want us to do a review on... What's it called?
Lec.
Yeah. Us know.
Here she goes, dad jokes coming out, everyone.
Funny.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Well, we should probably wrap this.
Wait, yeah, we should, because this is nearly an hour, but I want to know if you have a egg for these 3 drivers, let us know, because we would love to hear what you think. Are we way off base? I don't think we are. I thought we were pretty close in kind of the way we interpreted the eggs.
Yeah, agreed. And I think we were quite nice about the drivers as well. Like, don't get me wrong, I do like an aero mitten, but I've got to be in the mood for it.
Yeah, I completely get that, although I do love an aero mint and I don't have to be, but I don't like a Thornton, so we said the same thing in different ways.
So, prediction. Jazz, wow,
We're saying the same thing at the same time, oh my god.
Predictions.
Yes.
You were really close this week. Do you want to talk about it?
So my prediction was Piastri, Lewis, Leclerc. And obviously Lewis didn't quite make it up there. You know, what a shame. Sad for that, because I really didn't want to see him. But I knew it was kind of a low chance that his experience would come through. But yeah, Piastri, there's something about the way that he's driving. I feel like he's on the run to the title this year. I have to say, I do think he is. And then obviously Leclerc, he's just he's able to pull out 3rd, 4th out of the bag the last few races, so you know it's not a surprise to see him up here. So I was really happy that I was close this time, so you can't really roast me. In terms of predictions for Miami, I haven't written any down, so I'm going to wing it. So Miami is a hot track. Well, it's a hot day there because I went to it randomly when I was out once. We just got last minute tickets. Don't recommend that race. It's pretty boring.
Really?
To be at, yeah, because I don't know, I just don't really like Miami. It's a pretty boring track. But I think we will see Piastri. We will see... I'm going to say George. And Leclerc. I don't know if we'll get... actually, no, maybe Lando. I'll go Lando.
Yeah, okay. Well, my last week's prediction for this was Oscar first. George Lewis, so not particularly on point.
No, but it's not that awful.
It wasn't
George
far off.
Too, like, you know, he still got 5th. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, and I just picked the wrong Ferrari. So, for Miami, I've gone Lando, Oscar, Max. I think Lando's going to push himself to the limit to regain the title of champion.
That scares me though, because when you're pushing yourself and you're doing it, like if you're not doing it in the way where it's within your limits, and I'm all for finding the limits, but he's not a rookie, and he should know what those are now. And if it bleeds too far into desperation to prove himself, because obviously again the media are really harsh, social media is really harsh. I've been really harsh. I think I don't want to see him do something stupid that you know makes him at risk of crashing or mentally not being okay. I think I want to see him come back and be like, you know what, I can do it. Wherever I come. The car can get him there. He just needs to put his touch on it, and it'll be smooth sailing. We've seen him do it before, so yeah, I hope it doesn't lean too far that way, because it would be a shame to see him kind of not trust himself when he already knows what his limits are.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want it to deteriorate in front of him. I want him to make clear, concise decisions that lead to a good result. But we'll have to see. But that is why I put him first. I do think there will be a line of desperation going on there. I just hope that he uses that to his advantage rather than to his dismay. So we'll see. I think it's going to be Lando, Oscar, Max.
Interesting. Max does usually do all right at Miami, so you know I don't think he'll be far off with that. It's just whether the car can come back in again. You know, if the track is hot enough, maybe, and they get the right setup, maybe we'll see that. But yeah, I think for McLaren again, it comes down to strategy and how they handle their drivers, because that obviously didn't really come into play this race, but it has before. Yeah. And I don't want them to screw it up for those two, because
I agree.
It could be an interesting year to see those two battle it out for the championship, and I want them to have a true opportunity to do that in a safe way, in a respectable way. But if McLaren start meddling, I don't know how long that will last.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting race, not because of the circuit, but because of the circumstances.
Agreed.
Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in once again. If you've made it this far, you know the drill. Come join us on our socials. We've got TikTok, Threads, and Instagram. We'd love to see you in our DMs. We got catfish this week. I thought we had a message, and it wasn't. It was a bot. Please, someone message us.
She was so upset, guys. She thought it was paddock tickets. She thought Williams would come in knocking on that door saying, girl, we see you. We need you. Come and support us. But no, it was a catfish. Yep. Sorry.
Sad for us.
Also, don't forget to follow us and watch us on YouTube, because we do post the visuals and some funny content over there. I definitely add way too many memes, so if you enjoy that kind of thing, come and see us on it. Otherwise, we will see you after the next race.
Yes, which was May the 4th, so we'll see you then.
Bye!
As always.